depending on your fabric. So more on that later. To get the needles out, you can see there are, of course, 2 needles. The screws are in at an angle, which is a little bit misleading. You still want to line the needles up so the eye is going straight front to back. So to take this out, all you need to do is grab the needle, put the screwdriver in the slot, and this is not carpentry. You don't need to put a lot of pressure in, just place and turn. Yeah. So here is a needle. Let me actually grab out some more samples.
Side again?
No, this is completely different from the basic one. Maybe. So I will send 2 needles home with each of you today, just so you can have a full set and have reliably sharp needles to come back to. May I borrow that one just to make sure they give me the right kind? Yes, they did. Good. Okay. So I'll just pass one around for now, and we'll have a look at them, and then I'll give you another one to take home.
So it has the curve on it again.
So each sewing needle is going to have some different features. This will be reviewed for you too. On the top part of the shaft here, it's going to be a bit thicker. That can either be completely round like these are, or it can have one flat side. For the round needles, we get the additional joy that we have to visually line up the eye of the needle when we're installing the needle in the machine.
Flat one, you just put, it'll just be the flat on flat. Yeah.
All the industrial machines have round shafts, or at least all the ones we have here. Now, looking at the bottom part of the shaft, we have 2 features, one on either side. On one side, you have a long groove running the full length of the shaft, and that one may actually be easier to feel with your fingernail than to see. On the other side, we have a little chunk taken out of the needle right above the eye. That's called the scarf. So you're always going to thread your needle from the groove side to the scarf side, and the thread runs from there into your fabric.
So
On
the
this
scarf
machine,
side goes in the back.
Scarf side goes in the back. Yeah, this machine we're threading front to back. So
With the groove you're seeing goes in the front?
the groove goes in the front, and the scarf goes in the back. Yeah.
So it's the same.
It is the same as the basic machine. You just have to line it up visually instead of relying on that flat bit to line it up for you. So you guys all found the groove in the scarf?
So this dip is the scarf?
That's the scarf, so that'll
That'd
be
be
the back.
the back. All right.
On this machine.
Okay.
The other machines are going to be different. Yay!
All right.
All right, looking at some other features on the needle, we should talk about size and tips briefly. You can definitely have different sizes of needles. This one is a 116, which is a little heavier weight than you've got for the basic machine. Basically, as you're working with thicker fabric, you will want a bigger needle and possibly a larger diameter thread as well. You can also get sharp or ballpoint tips. Sharps are typically going to be used for woven fabrics, ballpoints, or knit fabrics. Anyone need a definition woven or knit?
Woven or knit?
I'll take that as yes.
Yeah, I guess, sure.
Okay, so this one is a woven, this one is a knit. The woven fabric here is a bunch of threads all running parallel, and then other threads looping up and over them. You can see you can actually just pull these parallel threads kind of apart.
Right.
That's typical of wovens.
Okay.
Wovens tend to be fairly non-stretchy, and they're going to be stuff like button-down shirts, jeans, those are all woven. If you break a thread in the middle of a woven fabric, it's not going to be a big deal because there's enough support structure, you're not going to develop a giant hole. Whereas for the knit, these guys are one thread looped around and around and around and around and around, around themselves. And if you break a thread making up the fabric, you can have the whole thing pull apart. I mean, the classic comic strip, you unravel a whole sweater when there's a hole, right? So if you break one of the threads making up the knit fabric, it's much more of a problem.
Okay.
Now the sharp needles, when they go down into the fabric, they just pierce through wherever, and if they break a thread making up the fabric, who cares? The ballpoints, on the other hand, are a rounded tip, and they'll actually push aside the threads making up the fabric and look for a space in between. So ballpoints are going to give you a stronger stitch for knits because they won't destroy the fabric itself. Whereas sharps, they actually just cooperate a little bit better for the wovens, and you don't have to care about the stitch strength because there's enough structure in the fabric. These are ballpoints today, I believe. Double check that. You can use either needle kind for either fabric kind, and you'll just get more durable results if you match it up correctly. So I think that's the basics of needles, architecture, and function. Oh, sizing. There's 2 scales for sizing. The first number that I use, the 100, that is the European scale, and that's a portion of the millimeter at the eye of the needle. So this is a 100, that should be 1 millimeter at the eye of the needle. The second scale, the 16, that's the American system, and it is not matched up to anything else. Hooray! It's not wire gauge, it's not medical needle size, it's just a scale. But they do move in the same direction. You'll have a 7511, 9014, 116, 140, 22. That is a big needle. We'll be using those in the walking foot.
It says like organ 16.
Yeah, so the 16, that's the second scale there, the American system.
Okay.
And you may have people use one or both system. I tend to use both just because then whoever I'm talking to, there's a chance they'll understand.
All right.
But you can just go into the artist store and ask for 100 or 16 or 100/16 or 16/100. They'll figure it out. Right. So for installing the needle, you can actually thread it before you install it if you want to. You'll just run it all the way up the slot as far as it will go, line up the eye of the needle visually, and tighten it down.
So it must not matter if you're off a little bit on the needle here then.
You need to be as close as you can get. The further off you are, the more friction is going to be applied to the thread, and the more it's likely to break, or just not be as strong in the seam. So if you're off by 2.5 degrees, yeah, who cares? If you're off by 15 degrees, you'll start seeing a difference.
Well, and the eye is straight from this.
Yeah, and the eye needs to be straight front to back. The screws are at an angle just because they're easier to access that way, but the eye is still straight front to back. You'll also notice the tips of the two needles are at different heights. That's normal. Don't worry about it. Just run it up as far as it'll go and then tighten it down. Now, when we're doing our 3-thread line here, you're going to want to pull this first thread all the way back past the last moving part, and then you can just throw it up over the back of the machine. So you can leave this part threaded, but you'll have to pull it back past this moving fixture. You will also want to take out this last needle, just so we don't get the interaction we saw on the sample over there where we've got the extra thread sticking out. So for 3 threads, pull this first thread back, take out the rubber needle. For 4 threads, you want both needles installed and fully threaded. Make sense? All right, go ahead and thread up that needle and we'll continue along. All right, so we'll just review this when Susan gets back, but you're going to want, as I said, about 10 inches of thread here. Once again, you're going to do an overhand knot at the end, just to keep the ends of the thread, oops. I'm trying to demonstrate it, big broad visuals and can't get it done. You can close everything up at this point. Make sure you're not trapping your thread underneath. And then pull everything straight out to the side.
Oh yeah.
Put the foot down over it. And then you can just draw it gently out to the back a little bit and get it out of the way. This may seem a little bit, and the thread coming out to the side, absolutely for sure when you're starting. Like I said, that may sound really super picky, but if you just leave the threads coming out the back, they may not form that initial loop correctly.
Oh, you're saying keep it on the side?
Well, it needs to be under the foot here, and then you can just kind of throw it out of the way. At this point, you'll be ready to stitch. So, need a volunteer. Did it work? Okay. No, actually, Susan's just back, so let's go through this again.
Oh, so now she's just going to stitch to make sure we thread it properly.
Yeah. Okay, so all I've done here is I tied the ends together, another overhand knot, and then you want all the threads coming out to the left. Bring the presser foot down over them, and then you can just get it out of the way. But that position for the thread is going to make that initial loop form much more reliably. So it's a very good best practice. All right, now if everything's done right, we will get all 4 threads interacting and forming a chain. You wait for big breath.
Is this yellow needle supposed to come up over the...
It should sort of
the yellow
self out.
thread?
Yeah. Go ahead and just push on the foot pedal and we'll see what we get.
Yeah, it's not like... Just like a really bad angle here.
And it looks like we are forming a chain. We are getting all 4 threads interacting. Hooray! Victory! Always a relief.
Oh, so this is something maybe you can tell us, like, see how this now is all yellow?
Yes.
So, is that always this one, you know, before it was green?
Yes. Actually, we're about to talk about that along with
Okay.
tension. So, all stuck tension. Go ahead and grab a sample somewhere so you have something to look at.